All aboard, it's Jang here with a look at the Playmobil Mars Space Station set. This comes with over 180 pieces, and it is very, very much a spiritual successor to the original Playmobil Classic Space Station from 1981 that they re-released at one point along the way, and that I reviewed some years ago. But the new one is definitely its own thing and not at all a re-release. The overall arrangement has this large central hub, and then additional modules get attached to that. So there's a lab module or experiment module over here. This is a crew quarters and sleeping module over here. And then these two areas can actually be connected to if you get other sets. So the main launch site set has a crew module, for actually sending people up and bringing them back down to Earth, and they also have a cargo module. Either of those can be connected by simply pulling up one of these solar panel arrays, which are also able to be articulated around to make sure that they're always facing towards the sun, and then those modules will just connect directly in to either of these spots. Now this has prominent landing pads or skids or struts around the outside, so this is clearly supposed to be on the surface. However, it also has rocket motors and nozzles underneath that are intended to either represent this coming down to a surface complete, so not being built on a surface, or actually being able to return back up into space. Or you could, if you want to, see this as an actual space station in space and not on the surface. So there are a lot of options that Playmobil offers to you here for how you can use this in your own imagination and in your own fantasy, in your own world. You can make it very realistic. You can make it really, really out there. You see it has some thruster motors back here as well, so it's intended to actually be able to move itself around. Yeah, I think that's a good thing. This opens up to allow crew to get in and out, and that's an airlock that kind of looks realistic-ish in a way. You can kind of see what they're going for there. It's a clear window type of, just a round partial cylinder, so you can put a figure in there. Let me see if I can just insert this guy. Oh no, he lost one connection there, but that's okay. He'll put it back together once he's inside. Yeah, it just rotates around, and now he's facing towards the inside, and he's able to move around in there. And then these modules are able to be removed as well, so not just the additional ones that you can get from other sets. So you just squeeze in this red sort of button up here, and that allows you to pull this entire thing out. There we go. And each module also has a cover that represents glass, so you can rotate that around to get your own access in there to actually put figures in there. So again, this is sleeping quarters, so it has spots for two figures to be sat down in there. They also have drinks, and they have some computer terminals that they can access. I'm assuming that they would also be able to watch movies or recorded TV shows or something for R&R. While we're looking at these modules, I might as well show you this one as well. So this has the same connection and the same setup with the rotating outer simulated glass. This is an experiment module that has a bunch of plants that are growing in there, some of them for experiments and possibly some of them to eat. I mean, that definitely looks like cabbage right there. Stickers are used to represent the consoles that are showing different displays of data. There's also some storage in here of some usable commodities, and you'll find storage all throughout. So this is clean, drinkable water. We've got a couple of those just stuck into the wall over there. More of your experiment and lab section over here, including a section that has some samples of minerals, some crystals that have been found, I'm assuming on the surface. So this gets closed up and be able to do some analysis with that. Got a microscope right there and some more items that are held fairly securely in place. There we go. So this one does not show exactly what it's supposed to be. It's related to the mission, has the Mars mission logo on it, so you can make it be whatever you want it to be. And the other one is another thing of water. You can also remove this microscope if you want, and there's just enough room to have figures, a couple of figures in here standing at the same time. One other thing also with these large modules is that you can actually attach them into these smaller ports as well, just going backwards. So this will actually slot in like so. It just gives you even more options, especially if you have multiple sets together, or if you just want to kind of change the shape of things around a bit. Before I open up the top of this station, this is a little defense turret with a couple of missiles. They call it a laser turret, so you can see those laser bolts if you want. Again, use your imagination however you wish. This can be used to defend yourself against aliens if you want, or you could use it to protect the station from incoming meteors or meteorites, depending upon whether you want this to be on the ground or up in space. So this can rotate all around, and these are able to be shot off by just pushing on the trigger back here, which builds up a little bit of pressure, and then they fire off fairly straight, actually. It's just 2 projectiles. And then your main access involves taking the entire roof off. This to me looks like the command post for the entire station, so a large computer display there and a big customized keyboard with also a control pad in the center of it. There's a microphone for accessing internal communications and also external communications. Looks like there's a space version of an alarm clock off to the side. Nice panels on these stickers. The consoles that they drew up, I think, look pretty nice. These look like clipboards over here on the side that are placed into these slots, but they actually represent circuits. And I like this idea because for imaginative play, you can start to think about diagnosing electrical faults that have occurred on a mission. And you can take these out, make sure that they're in the correct order. They're numbered 1, 2, and 3. They're just nice little prints on stickers. You have to apply those. And then these things off to the sides aren't necessarily in the correct places. There are different places you can put them. They tend to represent, again, food, drink, or experiment containers. So they're just some banana puree or banana juice, keeping your electrolytes up while you're up in space. This looks to be a pilot's seat and pilot's control area. So if you're seeing this as being something that is in space and not just created and built permanently on the surface, then while it's being piloted around, either in orbit or going to the destination planet or coming back, wherever you want it to be going, put a person right in there and then they would be piloting it around. They just hold on to the controls on the sides. And this is a large window out in the front. So that's pretty cool. Turns the whole thing into a spaceship of sorts. This area is relatively mundane. It's just some storage and a little bit of counter space. These 2 round areas are to hold on to helmets for the EVA suits. So I've got one of those here. Just lightly holds on to it. And then they also have some caps. So your people can be wearing just these caps instead while they're inside. Because this is going to be an area that has good environment. It'll have pressurized breathable air and everything, so you don't need to have your full suits on. You don't need to have your full helmets. A very old school style of camcorder there. They can be held by a figure or it can just be left in place for doing a little bit of vlogging work. These are just simple and, again, very mundane drawers with simple things in them, but important things. Got some utensils and small tools, toothpaste, and 2 toothbrushes. The lower one has regular tools in it. Definitely need to use some of these things for various experiments and also repairs, because stuff goes wrong in space. You need to be able to do repairs for sure. This is an example of one of the entrances to one of the add-on modules. So the sleeping module happens to be back there right now, but they've suggested an airlock sort of setup. So if you have one of these modules removed, it's still safe. You're not going to have a big hole there that seems all unrealistic. This lock does not actually work, but you can turn the handle and then pull this down. Oops. It's easier for me to get it from the top, and it kind of goes flush into the floor, so it's not taking up too much space, and your figures can still stand, can still walk around the place. We got a little bit of fire suppression system over here. This looks pretty old school, like it would just be squirting out some water, but use your imagination there. Think of it as something that's appropriate for dealing with emergencies on a space station. More little spots where you can place food and drink and things. This just says A on it. I'm assuming that's like entree A. Maybe it's some chicken noodle soup or something. Just imagine it to be, again, whatever you want it to be, or it could represent a sample, but this appears to have some berries on it. So I'm assuming this is like a fruit smoothie, or maybe just some reconstitute. Another drink bottle over there, another airlock over here for another of the modules, and that's it for the stuff around the sides. But you didn't look at the center yet. This is an exercise machine right in the middle. Very important to get your exercise when you're in a low gravity situation, so this helps folks. They just stand right there and use these bands you can hold on to either handle with a figure. And beneath that, I'm actually going to pull this up. Beneath that is a battery box and circuit, a real working circuit. Oh no, this poor guy keeps getting beat up or having things unfortunate happen to him. But there's that panel down there. This is something that we actual human beings can use. We can push the different buttons, and different lights or different, this is the fire suppression coming off over here. Different lights and or different sounds will come up inside and or outside. So I'll just push one of these things to get it started. You can see those two lights came on. They're very bright interior lighting. Push this one over here. There you go. Those lights on the outside. So it just provides a little bit of glow around the base of the thing. Or if it's in space, then it just provides some marker lighting. The rest of these buttons don't give you any lights, but instead just sound. So this is supposed to be while you're in orbit. Maybe inserting into orbit or taking off. Not sure. This one is with rocket motors turned on, so just a low rumble. It's actually kind of subtle, more subtle than I expected. And none of these will actually light up the rocket motors underneath. These do not have any lights in them. These are just little inserts. It's all just plastic pieces, so none of that will actually glow for you, unfortunately. So your warning alarm there with the one red light that comes on as well. And here's one for some communication. I like that. So it's mostly gibberish. I believe that they're speaking, which is perfect because it can represent absolutely anything, rather than just having them always saying the exact same thing that us real humans can understand. I think it makes a lot more sense to have gibberish so that it just sounds like various communications going on. And yeah, that's actually my favorite of all of these. I like the lights, but I wish that there was more light. And the rocket sound is especially, like I said, just very, very subtle. I expected more of a crashing, thundering boom, but the loudest sounds are the alerts and then whatever that is. So here's a closer look at one of the astronaut figures, and they're named. This one is Crawford. I believe he's actually the mission commander. I forgot to look it up again to refresh myself on every individual's supposed roles, but of course, you should come up with your own roles and your own scenarios. There's so much printing and so much detailing here, including across the visor, showing the heads-up display, that's projected in front of him wherever he is. And looks like he's got the full suit on with the environmental controls on the back and environmental system. He also has some communication there. He's got a flashlight in his hand. You see that the arms are add-ons to add extra bulk onto him. You can remove that as well. There's some stuff that's related to his breathing apparatus, I'm sure. And let me go ahead and strip him down to just more of a normal form. See, look at that. So much simpler, so much more sleek. Looks more like a regular person like that. But this is definitely appropriate, again, for use inside of a climate-controlled pressurized area. You don't need all that suit on, so this is nice to have that option. I'm glad they also have some additional printing on the regular arms under there. This is Dr. Akasha, and the blue color of her outfit versus the yellow for the other crew member could represent a number of things. It could be an indication that she's from a different country, that multiple countries are participating together in this collaborative space mission, and they have different colors for their different outfits to help separate them. Or blue could represent Dr. Akasha's specific role. The different colors could represent different positions on the mission, on the team, or they could just be to distinguish them visually. So you don't mix the two up if they're out doing repairs on the outside of the station or something. Again, use your imagination a little bit, but there are definitely some potential realistic scenarios that you could put behind such a mundane thing as differences of color. I'm glad that they did make them look different, not too generic, and they have different accessories as well. And you can see on the back there's a System X connection point, so you'd be able to connect this up to something else if you want. I'm sure that there are plenty of possibilities within the system for that. And here she is out of suit, or with the least items attached, although the little headset microphone there is also detachable, but I wanted to leave that in there, make sure that it was obvious. And once again, there's some additional printing on the arms. The printing on the legs for these are not the best. There's a little bit of bleeding of the black around the edges, but otherwise I'm happy with the level of detail that they show. And finally, here's a robot helper who doesn't need a space suit and can be very helpful for various tasks, including picking up samples, possibly that are irradiated, and you don't have to worry about exposing a living being to things that you don't know about before they're actually checked out. This even has printing on the arm right there, and if you're not familiar with these robots, the head is able to move around. It's on a ball joint in there, so it's able to move all around. The ears can be, the antennae can be placed differently, so you can angle those up and down. There's no printing around the back of this, but the arms come up and down. It's able to sit down like so, and you can also move the eyes around, so you can kind of change the facial expression. That's the most interesting thing about these, I think. You can make it look mad, or you can make it look glad just by moving those suggestions of eyebrows around. Finally, here are some additional accessories they include to use with your figures. So a bunch of snack packs here, and those just have stickers that you place on them. A single laptop that you can use on the go or on the move. And this, I believe, is supposed to be just a headband light, like a flashlight, that you don't have to have your hands on. Comparing the new and old space station designs side by side, it's striking how different they are in the size of the center core and how different they are in their shapes, because this didn't have any of the modules that attach on to the sides, so you get all this additional play value with these additional extensions, and plus if you have other sets from the series, then you can add on more. They're just very different. Like I said, this is clearly a spiritual successor to this in its design, but it definitely goes off in a very different direction. It's much more modern, and even though the core of it is clearly smaller, I feel like there's at least as much that you can do with this, if not a bit more. Overall, this is a pretty nice setup. It definitely gives you a lot of stuff to do. I like the modularity, how you can connect this to parts from the other sets from this series. I do wish that the light and sound system gave you more in the way of lights. I think the sounds are okay, but more lights would have been nicer, especially to light up the interior or to give you that rocket blast kind of effect. The build overall is pretty good. It's pretty solid, and it's not too difficult to move figures around and to get into all the compartments and everything. And I think the selection of accessories that they include to use with your figures is great. So overall, I'm definitely happy with this, and I'm looking forward to checking out more of the sets from the new Space series. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again as soon as I can.